Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, Digitizing Signature and Other Paper-Based Workflows with Adobe Sign and Microsoft 365. We appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to join us. Just a couple of housekeeping items we'd like to mention before we begin. All attendees are in listen-only mode. If you have questions throughout the presentation, please submit them through the GoToWebinar question box. We'll be answering any questions following the presentation. We're also recording today's session, so everyone will be receiving a recording in tomorrow's follow-up email. I'd like to introduce today's speaker, Todd Davidson. Todd leads the worldwide go-to-market for Adobe Sign, a cloud-based solution that makes it easy to prepare and send documents for e-signatures and just as easy to sign them. So at this point, Todd, I believe we're ready to transition over to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Rebecca, and good afternoon, everyone. Good late morning to anybody who may be on the West Coast. Good evening if you're in Europe, and if you're in Asia, I have no idea why you're on this webinar. Okay, so I am going to talk primarily about Adobe Sign today and what we're doing with Microsoft so that you have an understanding, you know, as people who are and companies who are making that consideration around a move to cloud and looking at particularly how are you more productive. Adobe and Microsoft are doing a lot of really interesting things together. So in 2016, we launched a strategic partnership to help businesses transform customer engagement with Microsoft Dynamics and Adobe Experience Cloud. Experience Cloud, just to set a little bit of footing, it's not our focus today, but it's a suite of digital marketing tools and applications. But then last year, 2017, we expanded the partnership, and the partnership came over to Adobe Document Cloud and Adobe Sign, which again, Sign is our focus today. And the extension of that partnership basically comes right into everybody's day-to-day productivity and driving more efficient business processes for hundreds of millions of Office and Dynamics users, and really having them, you know, get more, be more productive, but really just do that in their core working environments of Office and Dynamics. So specifically, we expect customers like you would benefit from leveraging synergies across systems to deliver better experiences and maximizing the value of your investments, your technology investments. So it's a lot of interesting stuff. You'll get to see some of it in action here in a little while. So we're in Microsoft and Adobe together. We solve customer challenges and offer something that's truly differentiated in terms of the value we can bring to the market. So the first part of that is we together are among the few large software companies that have been serving enterprise customers for years. So both companies understand technology investments that customers make. And that translates down into the smaller company size, because I know today, you know, we're talking to a lot of companies that are on the, you know, the small, medium business side. But we understand, you know, what that is, and we understand how investments in these applications become critical to your day-to-day productivity. And what we're trying to do by joining forces is really maximize the value of those investments. So, you know, today, just as an example, there are more PDFs stored by business users in OneDrive and SharePoint than any other file type, with the exceptions of Microsoft Words, .docs, right? Microsoft Excels, .xls's, and Microsoft PowerPoints, .ppt. And so you can see the synergies of what Adobe is doing with what Microsoft is doing as productivity solutions that mesh very, very well together. And what we're going to be doing in the future is helping unlock the data and the intelligence in those PDFs using new AI techniques that the Document Cloud product team on our side is working on. So again, going further and further to try to maximize your customer and your investments. So the second thing, speaking of maximizing investments, is, you know, we can jointly help organizations transform their business from marketing to sales to IT. Marketing Cloud, again, for bigger companies, really complements CRM. But more importantly for today, what Adobe Sign can help companies do is sort of solve a last mile gap in Microsoft solutions. I'm just going to give you one example for now that you'll get to see here in a little while, and that is closing out a contract, and thinking of it as a salesperson working with their customer. You guys as members of companies trying to get a customer to sign on to one of your products. You may be using Microsoft Dynamics right there in the opportunity screens, and using Adobe Sign right there to be able to sign that agreement or send it out for signature and then have the customer sign it. And so the last thing here is that, we'll continue to accelerate in the areas of cloud, AI, collaboration, and really help you as customers increase the speed of your business. Okay, so a little rhetorical question. Are you drowning in paper? If you are, let me tell you, you're probably not the only one. In fact, I know you're not the only one. So research has shown that precious time is being wasted by employees across organizations due to all the administrative tasks that they have to do, and they're doing those with disconnected document processes. So when you think of employees' core job, there are cases where less than 2/3 of it is actually being spent on the core job function, and they're actually spending it more on administrative tasks. And so the second thing that goes along with that is that revenue is lost. So when a sales cycle is interrupted by having to manually process paper, or by having to secure a signature and sort of, chase in some unnatural ways where you're disconnected from the customer, it impacts the probability of that deal closing. 66% of the customers, and there's a reference here at the bottom to an Aberdeen research project. They surveyed customers, and 66% of those experienced excessive deal slippage. 49% say that their sales cycle is too long due to manual and paper-based processes. And then one more thing, there's just a negative impact when customers have to print, sign, send, fax documents. That impact is pretty significant. So again, citing a study, CSO Insights reports that 77% of customers say that automation gaps are impacting their customer experience, and 63% say that document process issues are negatively impacting their customer satisfaction, and that you're just having to spend time in ways that they are tedious. And what happens in those cases is that customers then start looking for another solution. And so if this is the way that you are doing business, then there definitely is risk to your business. So now let's flip it around and let's tell the sunnier story. What are the benefits of getting onto a digital signature or a digital document process? So signatures dramatically increase in the speed of execution, in the speed of completion from pen and paper. Forrester study showed signatures on average were received with a group adopting Adobe Sign in 3 hours versus 8 days. I mean, 3 hours versus 8 days. That is very dramatic, and it has a huge impact. Next thing, so savings of person hours in spending time on tasks that really don't make sense. And so 50 hours per user per year, when you think of it as one user, that doesn't sound like a lot. But depending on how many you have in your organization, that could end up being thousands of hours, and thousands of hours ends up making a big difference. And if it's a bigger company, for example, if it's a company of say, let me think about this, like several hundred employees, you get up into the thousands of hours each year that you're talking about, and then that can end up being, millions of dollars of ROI. And that lastly, 383% total ROI. That's from a Forrester impact study from last year. And so these are potential benefits of connecting the systems you use to move documents through your organization and beyond your firewall. We do all these crazy things right now to get documents out and to get them back. And the idea is, we have a way to dramatically simplify this, not just from your customer's perspective, in making it much, much easier for them to just sort of stay connected to their regular working environment on any kind of device and be able to sign things. But for you as the potential sender of these documents, the person who is creating the documents and sending them out for signature, there is really dramatic opportunity to improve the way you're doing that. Okay, and then a little bit of stats on really what's happening in the marketplace. First of all, Adobe Sign is part of Adobe Document Cloud, and a sort of a bedrock of that franchise is Acrobat. 110 plus million people use Acrobat every single day. That could be for a number of different reasons. There's a bunch of PDF services that are within Acrobat. 200 billion PDFs opened in Adobe products in 2017. And now, more specific to Adobe Sign, 8 billion signature transactions in Document Cloud in the last 12 months. And when you look at larger companies, over 50% of the Fortune 100 now use Adobe Sign. Now, I say that, I do always want to follow that on to say, though, that this is an excellent solution for those of you in the small medium business space, or maybe more of a mid-market size company, 500,000 employees. It's a great solution really for companies of any size, because the problem / opportunity, depending on how you want to state it, really is the same for any company in terms of gaining dramatic efficiencies. So let's look at what a document lifecycle looks like. And what's going to be important is when you get over here towards the end of the execute, because it goes back to the statement that I was making about that last mile, and there's an important closing that has to happen at the end. Earlier on, though, what's happening is documents are getting created. And these things probably look very, very familiar to most of you now. I can say for myself personally, I spend a ton of time in these three apps right here: Word, PowerPoint, Outlook. You don't think of Outlook as necessarily being the source of generating a document for signature, but because it is a way that we do a lot of our communicating, it actually is. Paper documents, sometimes there is a starting point of something that is paper that just needs to be digitized, and we provide ways to do that. Existing PDFs, you can think of that often as the legal teams within companies of all sizes are just using PDF as a default, and they're taking everything as potentially an earlier creation point, but then saving it as a PDF. And then fillable forms, enterprise systems that companies use, SharePoint, Salesforce, Workday, others, certainly Dynamics, lots of environments that people are using to do a lot of their core productivity within their business. So then you're getting into collaborating. If you need to, share, add pages, maybe combine two files, PDF services, and Adobe provides a backbone for that. And it could be that there are processes that you want to follow in terms of, well, how does the collaboration happen? Is it point to point? Is there a routing order that you want to define. These are all solutions that we get involved in creating. But again, my focus today is what needs to happen at the end. You need approvals. You may need some form of internal acknowledgments, but a lot of times what you need is a signature, especially on the most critical customer-facing documents. And of course, you need to make sure that you archive everything, as you want to, as you define a process. A lot of times SharePoint comes into the picture in this part of the process. And so that's sort of the world of what's going on with documents. And so now let's take a quick look at, well, what specifically are we doing with Adobe Sign? So what we have is integrations that we've pushed hard into a whole host of key Microsoft products. And so there's a ton of things that are within the Office 365 world. SharePoint's sort of a part of that world as well. But again, creation happens here. Management happens here with SharePoint. By the way, as I'm moving around my mouse, I have no idea if anybody can see it or not, but I'm moving my mouse around. So I'll try to make sure my verbal is hitting it. And then Dynamics, and Dynamics, especially in the mode of a salesperson, or the mode of somebody who might be in an HR organization and managing the onboarding of new employees, or a procurement person managing vendors, things of that nature. And so Adobe Sign integrates with all those. We'll take a look at it here in a little while. But the point of those integrations and sort of the, maybe the standing objective is, just bring Adobe Sign into the environments that people are using on a regular basis. Don't make a workflow where they really have to interrupt what they already know and what they already do within SharePoint or within Outlook or whatever the case is. Okay, and so a little bit of a testimonial here on a few fronts. So some examples of benefits that companies have realized. So Telefonica, which is a UK-based telecommunications company, 300 million customers in 24 countries. They cut the average time to get employee contracts signed and returned by 92%. In their case, we talked about that notion of, many, many days becoming hours. In their case, it was 3 weeks before, and it was cut to an average of 11 hours. Let's see, lease plan. So this is a Dutch company. They manage 14 million vehicles in 32 countries, so they have a lot of presence all over the place. Average contract completion time of 23.5 days. They cut 19 days off the cycle, but then they also reduced a lot of paperwork burden. And again, giving salespeople time back to work with more new customers is a critical benefit. And then KLM, they took just one business process, managing their travel reward programs with partners, and eliminated the printing of 1 million sheets of paper in a single year. So again, these are bigger companies. Obviously, the benefits from a numbers perspective become bigger and bigger, but the benefits are there for everybody. Okay, so a little bit more on Adobe Sign. It's the trusted electronics signature leader. Processes over 6 billion signature transactions per year. I think I've got a mismatch though. I think it's actually closer to 8 billion, and serving over 77 million users in countries around the world. Oh, sorry, I do have 8 billion, my bad. And then according to Forrester, one of the most influential research firms, Adobe is a clear market leader. And again, the benefits are really, really strong across the board. Get signatures in way lower time, work anywhere on any device. And this is an important thing. It's an important thing for a signer. A signer really only needs a device that has an internet connection and essentially a browser to receive a request to sign. It's very, very simple as the signer, but then also as the person who is the sender, the person sending out the documents, it's very simple for them as well. Um, so, really, really interesting ways to adapt to how we are all working now, which is a lot more mobile and a lot more flexible. And then one of the most important things at the bottom is, ensure legality, security, compliance. And this is something that, it's not the sort of the glamorous part of the story, but it's, pretty much the most important one, that Adobe Sign continues to meet and exceed the highest levels of compliance requirements around the world. And what that really means sort of on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis is that there are a whole bunch of either government driven policy requirements or standards organizations that exist throughout the world. And basically what we do is we commit to an ongoing relationship, working relationship with all those organizations to make sure that any document that is generated and signed using Adobe Sign meets all legal requirements. So just skipping to, well, who uses this? Who are we talking about here? And maybe starting to put that into your own filters of, okay, well, if I think about my own company, who are we talking about here and what are they doing? So there are really a lot of examples. A lot of those are by line of business or job function, where you think of sales people and the critical need for contracts, proposals, application forms. You think of this especially in anybody that's related to financial service of one form or another. But other things as well, where there's forms that you need a customer to sign, and a lot of times the salesperson can be driving those, and they can drive those again from within Dynamics. Legal, contract management, NDAs, policies, things that you need that acknowledgement and agreement from customers on. IT and operations, so particularly if IT is working with other organizations, vendor agreements, asset management, change authorizations on IT projects, human resources, again, everything about either onboarding employees or getting signups to benefit programs, policies, things of that nature. Marketing having perhaps programs that customers need to sign up to or contracts that customers need to sign for campaigns, etc., or vendors that marketing uses. Resources and thinking of leases and facilities, and a lot of times that you tie that over to commercial property organizations, and it becomes more of a vertical orientation to a business type there, where that's a huge part of what they do on a regular basis. Procurement, any kind of supplier contracts, RFPs, things like that. And then product management and customer service. So you can see that there is a need for people across organizations to be able to easily and quickly and efficiently send documents out for signature and get them signed. Okay, so a few ways that Adobe Sign can impact these use cases. So think about your own business workflows. Are there processes that still aren't automated? Maybe these are things as you look at these, forms, approvals, maybe a click to accept document, which is, you have a standard and you need people to sign that. um, you know, Intelligent document routing and looking and seeing, okay, are there people who I work with that are still doing this through paper forms? Um, you can ask yourself, are you spending extra money and extra time um, on aspects of this um, so that you feel like you can ensure that somebody got your document? Are you overnighting things and paying a lot of money for that? Overnighting digital, or I'm sorry, physical documents. So lots of opportunities for automation and for cost savings that are really, they should be explored. Okay, a little bit more on compliance and security. Um, So these are things that we have always, had at the core of what we do, because it's really gone back to Acrobat. Even before digital signatures, Acrobat has been around for 25 years. And the importance that companies have always put on making sure that any document that's PDF'd is authentic and it has not been changed since it was created has always been important. And so, we have invested a lot in a security platform, secure, stable data centers, security and privacy compliance practices, and then again, legal and regulatory compliance and looking at that throughout the world. So these are very, very important investments that we make and will continue to make going forward. Okay, let's see, checking my clock here. Okay, I'm gonna breeze through this because it is just giving you a sampling of, well, what is it that that we are doing with a bunch of different standard types throughout the world or within a specific industry. So, if you're in the medical world, then HIPAA compliance is a big thing. PCI DSS is an important, that will always be sort of more of a global important standard, and we work across all these things on an ongoing basis. Okay, briefly, couple of things that we have seen. First one is the state of Hawaii. So basically, they brought in Adobe Sign and a services initiative that they're taking across all their departments of their government. And so they saved $5 million in about 2.5 years by reducing printing and labor costs. And this labor point is a big one. They rolled out citizen services faster. They've delivered 400,000 documents delivered electronically, 24,000 pages of paper every day. That's pretty impressive. And using those Microsoft integrations that we'll take a look at to create, send, and store forms in one location. Cintas. So what did they do? They used Dynamics 365 and Adobe Sign and really just revamped their contract process. And so what they saw was, 2-year agreement, 3,000 sales representative, automatically populating contracts with relevant CRM data, and really, again, just speeding the process to orders and to completing business, reducing cost and delays. Very, very important. Okay, I think what I want to do, if you guys are okay to allow me to just move a little bit ahead, is I didn't want to lose the opportunity to show the product a little bit. So I'm doing this, though, just to be clear, I'm doing this within screens that are sort of capturing the customer experience. um, through Dynamics and then through Office and SharePoint. And so we'll start with taking a look at Dynamics. And how we do that is we look at it through the eyes of an account executive. Our personas, our heroes of this today are Megan Bowen. And so she's an account executive at Contoso. And so she's going to be working within Dynamics, creating a quote and a master agreement in Dynamics 365 for sales. And so then what she'll basically be doing is she'll be packaging that agreement and sending it out for signature. And I'm going to focus a little bit on the sending out for signature in the interest of time. But if she did need, for example, to combine two files outside of Adobe Sign within the broader document cloud world, she has ways to do that with PDF services. And then Brian Johnson. So he's a contract manager at Tailspin. He is a person who is often remote and sort of using his mobile devices. He needs to have, visibility into everything going on with the company's legal documents, and to do so from anywhere, which is a critical thing. So he's going to be using Adobe Sign to review and improve legal documents from Megan. And so what they're working on together is a proposal for a 3D printer. Megan is she's from the company with the 3D printer. He has a demo center. They're working on a deal where she would not only sell him that, but that he would put it into his demo center. And so she gets some benefit from that. Okay, so now where are we? Well, we're in Dynamics 365 for sales. And so this is sort of the center of Megan's world, and she has a lot of opportunities in play. So in her sales management dashboard, she looks at open opportunities. So she's going to see all of those there. And so, there's different views here that she can choose. Some of you are, this probably looks very familiar to some of you that may use Dynamics 365. So she can come in here and want to see the open opportunities. Now that's filtered down. And so she created an opportunity for this X1050 Technology Center deal with Brian Johnson. So she created it. She's collected the contacts, the financials, other information that she needs to develop to close the deal. And she opens it right from her dashboard. And so here are the details of the opportunity. A number of fields in this view. For example, the account name, Brian Johnson's contact information. So they're mapped from other Dynamics entities like contacts and accounts, so that you see them here in the opportunity. Because people can change their mobile numbers, Brian's number is a field that he'll have the opportunity to update. And so this is starting, I'm sort of spoilering here, but this is what you'll start to see is how field mapping can happen in a way that really is not a big technical effort. It's part of the integrations, and there's tools to be able to do that and to put those fields into signature that you want to get, and then have those come back into Dynamics. And so let's go ahead and move on here. And so now she's scrolling down. She's going to review the financials. That's over here on the left side of the screen at the bottom. And so she's going to offer Tailspin a 30% discount off the printer because they're going to place it in the Tailspin Technology Center. So she created this offer as part of a formal quote, and the data automatically populates here. So she's scrolling down, reading the information. Here in the quotes area is the formal Technology Center quote. So she previously created this quote when negotiating the discount. Data from the quote will be merged into the agreement that she's going to send to Brian. Okay, so she's got all the details in place. She's going to prepare to send Brian a proposal with Adobe Sign. So inside of the UIs, there are different sort of screen treatments that we can have, but a lot of you are familiar with this ellipse or more area as one of the standard top ribbon, UI elements. And so if she clicks that, then what opens up is the ability to send for signature. And so she's going to select that, and then she's going to essentially grab the right document there that she had already prepared. So you can start from scratch. As you can see, she's got a new agreement option here, but she's selecting the existing agreement template that she created previously. So the template has, pre-populated reusable information, including the recipients, the signing options, security settings, the files combined, and the quote. And so using a template saves a lot of time. And again, that's something that is within easy reach for all companies, the ability to set up a templated environment that then gets accessed from within Dynamics. So Adobe Sign administrators can create as many agreement templates as needed to meet the different business requirements. For example, NDAs, that would be something different from a service level agreement or a work order or an invoice, etc. So she's going to send it. So the new agreement is coming in, and the template has filled in key information already. So to the right of the recipient list here, where you see Brian and his core information, his email, etc., is LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And so this option can be enabled within Dynamics by your Dynamics admin if you have that LinkedIn premium service as part of Dynamics. So that, of course, that's every company is, they may get value out of that and implement that. And if so, then you can validate your contracts with LinkedIn before sending your contacts with LinkedIn before sending the agreement for signature. LinkedIn Sales Navigator lets Megan communicate with Brian in several different ways. So it's a very, very easy way to stay connected. So she can send Brian a message directly, for example, to ask, are we still on for golf after this is signed? Any good salesperson is up for 18 holes, right? Establish a LinkedIn connection with Brian to ensure or establish him as the contact that who she knows and trusts, and make sure LinkedIn profile is connected to the right contact. So she's not going to take the time to do that right now, but she is confirming by seeing that all of the contact information is correct. Okay, so now she's going to attach files. So she's going to go look for her Contoso master agreement document. So she's going to add that PDF, grab the file, basically just click on it and put it in. Pretty easy stuff, right? And so she opens that, and again, what are you seeing? You're seeing Dynamics and all of this ability to get the right files and bring it in. You don't have to leave your core working environment. Okay, so she's got it. So with the PDF file added, she can now send the agreement to Brian Johnson for approval. So she scrolls up, clicks send, and again, it's on that top ribbon. So right within the core working environment, the whole sort of, opportunity screen set that's within Microsoft Dynamics 365. So she hits send. So after sending the agreement, Adobe Sign returns to the opportunity page. And as the agreement is processed, she'll be able to see, Megan will, the posts, notes, anything right here in the opportunity page. Depending on how she likes to work, she can also track in a bunch of other places. So a lot of people still spend time in the other Office 365 apps, the status updates would be there as well. but they would also be in the agreements dashboard in Adobe Sign. So we're going to pivot to that for a sec here. So inside of you see all the tiles again, familiar Dynamics UI. So she opens the Adobe Sign options, clicks the dashboards to open the Adobe Sign dashboard for Dynamics 365. And so here in the agreements dashboard, she sees that the quote that she just sent is out for signature, along with several others. So that's the list that's down there at the bottom. So I was mentioning this before. She can also track an Outlook. And so we're just going to pivot over there for a sec. So again, she's signed in with her same Microsoft 365 account. She sees a panel on the right side, shows all the messages and agreements that she sent. And icons show the status. So a yellow thing with a person icon is indicating that it's out, but it hasn't been signed yet. And of course, in contrast to a green pen icon, which is showing that it's already signed. And so those are previous ones that she's done. So she wants to take a quick look at it. So in the add-in, Outlook add-in, she sees the agreements out. And then there's some timestamp information that's there. It's basically just saying, when was it created? When was it sent out for signature? And if she wants to view the agreement, hasn't been signed yet, but if she wanted to take another look at it, then she can. Okay, so now we're going to flip over. So this was sent. Now Brian's receiving it, and so now we're going to pivot over and we're going to be Brian here. So Brian is in a screen. This looks like a Gmail screen, and it looks like a Gmail mobile screen. So he's on his, iPhone or his Galaxy or whatever the case is, and he's in his Gmail. So he sees the new email from Megan on his phone, and he taps to open it. So just like you do with any message. In the body, now he sees a summary, a document preview, and a link to review and sign. And so what he's going to do, because he wants to get in and see this, is he's going to click the link. And so now that becomes the body. He's into the body of the agreement. He can see some fields were filled in from the template, so he doesn't have to take any action on those, but he scrolls down, and the yellow icon that's up here at the top, you can scroll, but then you can also just hit that start icon, and it takes you to the first required action for you as somebody signing the document. But he's scrolling, so he's going to go down and just take a look at everything. But when he taps next, then that navigates him, like I was saying. It was start before because you were at the initiation of opening it. So he's going to tap next, and he's going to go right to the location where he needs to take action. There's a mobile phone field that was blank. He's entering his mobile phone number here. And so, then his next step is to sign the agreement. And the thing that is at the very top here that it's a little bit hard to see is he can type. He can use an image because some people save a JPEG or whatever of their signature, but then he can also just draw the signature, which a lot of us have become more familiar with doing in a lot of different contexts. I end up doing that a lot in taxis now or at restaurants. And so he's going to sign it. When he's done, he clicks, or he's going to enter his name. That's his next step here. So he's typing that in using his keyboard, and then he hits apply. And so last acknowledgement that he takes, so he agrees to the terms of use, he clicks to sign, and then he gets a message saying that he has signed. So he then receives a copy of the contract in two different ways. One is from the email on any device. Again, right now he's on his mobile phone. He can download a copy, but he also gets an email confirming that it's signed. So he always has a record of it that way. So now we're going to switch back. Oh, actually, no, I'm going to, in the interest of time, because I'm going to try to finish in about 5 to 8-ish minutes. I'm going to show Office and SharePoint a little bit. So same two people. You're going to get a quicker version of this one, but here's the important difference is that all of the user experience that we were seeing in Dynamics 365, we're really trying to make sure that we create a similar experience in different Microsoft apps. So the center of what we're doing now is in SharePoint, and it could be then we're using SharePoint as, the source of all of our documents that we're ready to send out for signature, but then also the source of where documents that get signed come back to when they're done. And again, that's a pretty easy mapping to be able to set that up. This isn't a huge technical time sink. So she's going to select agreements here, and this is a slight detour just to show one other thing that PDF Services provides. If you did have a few different documents and you wanted to combine those into one document and have that be a PDF, so it could be a presentation where you communicate a lot of key information, but then it also could be an actual contract document, a master agreement or an NDA, and you do those in Word and you want to combine them, then you can do that. And so here they are, 4 files. And again, you're doing all this within SharePoint. If you want to change the order of the documents and something should go before something else, you can do that. If you want to look at specific pages within the document and get rid of something or add something, you can do that. So you're done here, you combine, you give it a name, you save it, and then basically what you get is an agreement package. And so you can see there's a folder that she's created here, contracts ready for signing. So she's going to go into that folder and she's going to send the agreement out. And so again, you're very familiar, right? You've just seen something in Dynamics that is showing a pretty similar user experience where we're trying to take advantage of SharePoint now and the core, that core user experience within SharePoint. So she's going to use a contacts list that's also within SharePoint, and she's going to open in a new tab, and she's going to find Brian. And again, we're sort of using this same scenario to bring home the point of there are data fields that Adobe Sign can gather during a signature and bring those back into SharePoint. And so the phone number field was empty in this case. And again, here we are within SharePoint. We've got Brian selected as a contact. We're going to go right into Adobe Sign and we're going to hit send for signature. We're going to go through our directory structure and we're going to go into the legal part and then the contract's ready for signing like we were just showing there, and select that Tailspin contract package. So there we go. We've got that. We're going to attach it. And so she writes a message. This is a little screen that, again, you're not moving around to get to these screens. These are coming up within your SharePoint environment. If she wants to put a message here to Brian, then she can do that. And so then, as a last step, if she wants to preview the document, she can do that. So she selects next. Reason to preview, by the way, is that sometimes you don't have a fully templated file. And if you did want the opportunity to add something to it, for example, a signature block, if you didn't have a template that was actually pre-generating those, then you preview and you come in, and then you have control now, more in a mode of drag and drop. You have a bunch of different types of information that you can put in here, signature fields being one of those, and you can drag that in there. Very, very easy. Um, and so it's sent out, um, and that's it. And so we're not going to flip back over and show Brian again, but what we can do, just so again, we're trying to make sure that all of you understand, sort of the breadth of how Adobe Sign is working into the Microsoft apps, is show Outlook just for a moment. So similar to what we saw in Dynamics, you're in your core Outlook screens, you're seeing that this document is out. You see other ones in the past that have either been signed or one that may have been discontinued because it needed to be modified in some way. So again, green, yellow, red, iconography. And that is pretty much it. I'm not going to repeat this mobile experience because it really is the same thing that we already saw. And so now I'm going to do a little trick here to advance the slides. And Rebecca, that is essentially what I had. So I'm going to pause and see if there are any questions that people have had.
Thanks, Todd. Again, if anyone has any questions, feel free to go ahead and type those into the GoToWebinar question box. We did have a couple come in. Can Adobe Sign be integrated with custom in-house applications?
Yes, it can. So there are two different ways to do that. One is for a set of, I'm thinking like, 10 plus applications. We have pre-built integrations. And so think of those as sort of neighbors to what we just showed with Microsoft. So be that Salesforce, be that Workday, bigger important systems like that, they're pre-built, but then we also have APIs. And so those are open, they can be made available. And if there is a really specific process that somebody wants to do, then they have the ability to do that as well.
How is Adobe's approach to digital signatures unique?
Our approach is unique in a couple of ways. The first is that we are very, very committed to. I'm gonna cite two things. The first is a little bit of a reiteration that we are working relentlessly to make sure that core environments that people work within, we want to come into those environments and to create easy workflows that make sense to people. And so it makes a big difference, in my opinion, if you have to sort of kick out of your working environment to then go grab your, get into your digital signature application, um, and then spend time in that, and then sort of come back into the regular environment that you work. So that's one thing. Second thing is that we in no way feel like we need to be part of this from any branding perspective, and it's actually just the opposite. What we want to do is we want to encourage companies to be able to feature their own brand in everything that we do, and that is a distinguisher. I mean, it seems like a simple thing, and it seems like anybody in this space could be doing this, but it is not the case. The ability to control your brand and to not have a brand appear is actually a differentiator. And the third thing, this is not a pure differentiator. However, it's one that we are relentlessly pursuing, is just to stay on top of all emerging trust and compliance standards. So, a lot of people are going to be pursuing that, but none harder than Adobe.
Can I customize signing workflows?
Yes, you can. So there are a number of ways to do that, especially for those of you within the Microsoft world. There are new applications within Office 365. Um, that includes Flow. And Flow is a way to create workflows within other Office 365 apps, and literally sort of a WYSIWYG tool to be able to say, okay, I've got a 5-step process and it needs to go from point A to point E, and here's how I want to do it. And then the really interesting thing is that that's not the only environment to be able to do that. We actually, not really knowing Microsoft's roadmap, because both of us have been at this for a while, we actually created our own. And so within the Sign configuration tool set, independent of Microsoft, we actually have our own Flow creation tool there as well. And so for a customer, for somebody taking this on, there's a little bit of study to really look at these tools and how they work. But the great news for customers is that they've got awesome tools to be able to design those workflows.
Thanks, Todd. It looks like that's all of the questions that we have right now. But I do want to thank everyone again for joining the webinar today, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, that's great. And on the last, so if this does get sent out, at the end, in terms of what you can do, first of all, try Adobe Sign. We have a mechanism for you to be able to use the product for a period of time, evaluate it, bring it in, see if you like it, see if you like what it can do. And so contact your Velocio CSM for that. Explore Adobe Sign, URL here to get started, and then contact information for myself and my colleague Kimberly Ledoux, who is my partner to drive sign execution. And thank you, Rebecca.
Perfect. Thanks, Todd. Thanks again, everyone.
Bye-bye.